Be strong and get healthy. Stretch. Feel great about yourself and have some fun. It's time for you. Fitness is the key to your future. Don't get locked out. Take the challenge. Commit to be fit. Thanks for joining me today on Commit to be Fit. I'm Susie Smith. There's a lot more to staying fit and healthy than being physically strong or aerobically fit, or maybe just looking the way that you want to look. Well, these can certainly be byproducts of a healthy lifestyle. There actually are underlying factors that can sidetrack your plans. So today's topic is risk, and my guest is Pat Sanders, RN. So buckle your seatbelt and hold on to your hat. It's another informative and exciting episode of Anatomy and Nat with Susie and Pat. Thanks for joining me today, Pat.
Thanks for having me back, Susie. I think this is our, fourth or fifth time?
It's been quite a few, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't know, this is Pat Sanders, RN, and she is my medical consultant. She's been in the medical field as long as I've been in the fitness field, so we make a good team. And one thing I wanted to say before we get started is that a lot of things we see on the internet aren't true. You can get on the internet and you can find anything, and a lot of times it's just totally off.
You know, it can just be someone's opinion.
It
and if you take it as gospel fact, it may not be. So you really have to check your facts and do a little digging and research to find out what's really true.
And that's why we team up, and I really appreciate you being my medical consultant. And today we have an interesting subject. It's called risk.
The textbook definition of risk is the possibility that something unpleasant or unwelcome will happen, or a situation involving exposure to danger.
Mm-hmm.
That happens a lot in our everyday life. Some things we can plan for and some things we can't.
So you're saying there's different types of risk?
Yes, there are.
And what would those be?
Well, there's things that you can not do anything about. Some risk factors, things that expose you to risk, are things like your genetics and your age and your gender. You really can't change any of that. But
Okay.
there are some kinds of risks that you can do something about. Things that you can modify your lifestyle, things like smoking, obesity, your diet, exercise. Those are things that you can modify and can help yourself decrease your risk by paying attention to those things.
So so that's why we should be aware of risk then.
Right.
So some things like, of course, like you said, genetics, certain risks are more prevalent in women possibly than they are in men,
Right.
and vice versa, and that sort of thing. So we just kind of have to deal with that. But today we're talking about things that that we can maybe make a change or avoid injury or
Right.
damage. So where would you like to start on that with risk? Maybe flu season coming up, risk?
Well, first we could talk about seasonal risk. So flu season is a good place to start. It's September now. I've heard ads on the radio and television for getting their flu shot, which is something that we should do every year. Even young children can get flu shots. Some of us who are above the age of 60 or 65 might need to get the high-dose flu vaccine.
They do have a senior,
Yes.
and has more ingredients
It's a
in
little
it.
stronger, gives you a little
stronger.
better immune reaction to it, and that will help you if you're a little older because your immune system does kind of taper off as you get older. So getting a little stronger vaccine gives you a little better protection.
So, so the flu is a risk, and by getting the shot, we're kind of minimizing the risk of getting ill then. That's kind of where we're going with that.
That's one thing you can do. The other thing is to pay attention to how you manage your everyday life. Things like washing your hands frequently. And I don't mean just the quick rinse and dry off. Supposedly you should wash your hands with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds. And it really helps. It sounds silly, but it really helps with those 20 seconds if while you're scrubbing your hands you sing happy birthday.
Because is that the
It should
length of
take
the song?
It should take the amount of time that gives you the perfect amount of time to wash your hands before you rinse off and then dry.
Should you be singing out loud in the bathroom, happy
It
birthday?
depends on who else is in the bathroom and how silly you want to look.
But that's a good idea, though. That's a good way to think of it, though, because you don't want to just go like that and
Right.
just move the germs around on your hands.
It's not going to do anything. You really have to scrub with soap and warm water. You can also use hand sanitizer. That's a good option for those of us who are out and about who may not be able to get to a restroom or a sink with soap. You should not use that exclusively, though. After a few times with the hand sanitizer, you should go and wash with warm water and soap and actually do a good happy birthday scrub.
Well, I think hand washing has to be probably one of the number one things that we should be doing right now with the flu season coming. And I notice, like for instance, my mom lives in an apartment building, and they have rails where they walk because they're elderly people, and they hold on. And
Along the walls.
or on the walls, but this railing, you know, you can see that a lot of them hold on to it. And I think that's probably just infested with germs, and that would be a good time to wash your hands or use the hand sanitizer. Doorknobs,
Right.
those sort
Right.
of things.
And keep in mind, too, that hand washing doesn't just protect you, it protects other people from what you have on your hands also. So it's good for you and it's good for the community.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be one of the number one risk factors.
And while we're talking about hand sanitizer, we have some props here that we brought along with us today. A lot of us carry these little bottles of hand sanitizer. I don't want to advertise any particular brand, but you can find them at grocery stores or pharmacies, and they have a little tether here that you can put it on your bag or on your belt, and you can use your hand sanitizer that way. These are nice, but it occurred to me that when you're using hand sanitizer and you have bacteria or dirt on your hands and you handle the bottle, you've contaminated the bottle. And then you hand it to your friend who uses it, and then they contaminate their hands. Then they sanitize,
And then
close
I-
the bottle, and hand it back to me with whatever they've put on the
Then
bottle.
I've scratched my face in
Right.
the meantime.
Right. So then I take it back and put it on my bag or my belt, and I'm carrying something that's been contaminated. A way to mitigate that risk is by getting the hand sanitizer wipes, similar to what you get at the restaurant when you have a messy meal, ribs or chicken, something like that. And you can actually get these in the box. Again, not any
those are
particular
nice.
brand, they have several brands, but it's a one-use disposable. So you just tear open the package, use the hand sanitizer wipe, and pitch it. And if you have a few of these, as I generally do, you can use one for yourself and hand one to your friend.
Thank you. I'm your friend. Well, I think this is great because people used to think I was paranoid because I, would take a tissue and open a doorknob with it. But the germs out there these days are a lot stronger, aren't they, than
Yes.
they used to be? And it seems like we do have some problem with germs. So that definitely is a good kickoff point, I think. Now, with the rainy weather, what we've had all summer, but we will be getting, the snow and the ice and all of that. I like the props that you brought for walking and the seasonal props for non-slip. Can we talk about those a little bit?
Well, some of us are a little older than 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever. And those of us who might have bad knees, ankles, hips, maybe you've had a joint replacement, maybe you're not all that steady on your feet, maybe you use a cane or a walker, and when you go out on ice and snow and slippery surfaces, you do have a risk of falling that's increased from other people. So I found these a few years ago, and I absolutely love them. I keep a pair at home and a pair in the car. Even when I go out to get the mail or the paper on my sidewalk, I put them on my shoes. They're very elastic. They slip right on your shoes. And I brought two different types. You can get these very many places. Some sporting goods stores, you can order them on the internet. These are the ones I started out with. This happens to be called Yak Trax. It looks like a little basket, but it's got wire on the bottom, and the wire is what grips the ice.
I really like this.
And it's got a little elastic or a Velcro tab that holds it on your shoe. When you put it on your shoe, this is what it looks like, so that you have protection when you're walking on the ice. And when I've started using these, I have never slipped and fallen. Please don't mind my grody, disgusting shoes.
No.
So that's the Yak
Okay.
Trax. That's one type that you can get. The other type has spikes on the bottom, and some of these actually come with replacement spikes, so that if you've worn them down on concrete, for instance, when the ice melts and you're walking on concrete or road surfaces, these might get worn down. Some of these come with replacements so that you can just slip another one into the hole there and you have increased protection. These are very elastic and they just slip on your shoe. Some come with sizes, small, medium, large. Some come pretty much one size fits all. I think that's what these ones are.
Those
and
are
if you put
nice.
one of these on your shoes, it looks like this.
I've never
And just
seen
slips
this.
over your shoe. There's a little harness in the front. And the bottom of your shoe has little spikes on it that you can walk on ice with confidence.
And I tell you, that makes all the difference. I have the first ones that you showed. I don't have the second ones, the stretchy ones, but it's made all the difference for me. Well, you know, I've fallen on ice before and broken my shoulder, and that's a long recovery. So we want to make sure that we minimize risks. And I think that's one of the best things, the trackers for the shoes. And we also need to mention working on balance, probably,
Right.
if we're thinking about ice and snow season coming.
By the way, before we leave the topic of the ice walkers, I can tell you that they cost about $20, and they make a great stocking stuffer if you're looking for a Christmas gift.
I think it just works in conjunction with the exercises that I'm always asking people to do, you know, for balance, standing on one foot daily, because as you walk, you're only on one foot at a time anyway, and so back and forth. But if you put the trackers together with working on balance, I think we're going to be a lot safer
Right.
with this weather coming up.
So those are some of the seasonal risks. I think we also need to talk about everyday risks. Things like wearing seat belts,
Yeah, let's talk about driving risks.
not smoking, not using the phone when you're driving, not texting when you're driving, paying attention,
Oh, I
being,
see.
being present in whatever you're doing. Just paying attention to your surroundings is a big factor in cutting down your risk of a problem. And we've all seen people who are walking along with their phone in their hand, they're looking down, they're not watching where they're going. They might be out for their morning walk or their morning jog, maybe they have headphones on.
Oh, I hate to see that.
Yeah.
I hate to see women jogging with headphones on. You don't know who's coming up behind you.
You can't hear traffic
You
coming.
can't, a car could be right there. Just, if you have to have a headset, just have one in at a very low volume if you're trying to keep a beat or something like that while you're jogging. But we're here today to give you information on how to stay safe and how to minimize risks in your life, because no matter how much you work out, how strong you are, how aerobically fit, you fall down, you break, you know, or you're looking at your phone and you have a car accident. So all this ties into fitness. You can't be fit if you're taking risks all the time. And I mean, you have to take some risk. Every time you get out of bed in the morning, you take a risk, but
Well, living is a risk.
living is, and it'll kill you.
Bad things happen all the time.
So while we're driving, I guess you'd have to be careful about medications too while you're driving.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a risk.
Your own medications can have side effects that make you maybe drowsy or maybe not as safe to drive as you might be otherwise. The other thing is illicit drugs, street drugs. Some people will borrow other people's medications, and we should never do that. If you have a question about your medications, call your doctor or your pharmacist. If you have a side effect, stop taking it and call the pharmacist or call your doctor. But really, when I read the police beat in the paper and see these things where people are found in their car on the side of the road and they're passed out or they're snoozing, it occurred to me that 30 seconds before that, these people were out there driving. and I might have been on the road with them, and they might have been weaving all over the place when they weren't safe to drive. So paying attention to your surroundings, being present, looking where you're going, and thinking about what you're doing is very important.
It's definitely a different world. I think we were paying attention decades ago, a lot more than we are today. We're focused too much on what other people are doing, electronics, that sort of thing.
Right, and it's not that we're just so distracted. There are so many other things in society that distract us from paying attention and being present. Things like you can be together in a room, but if each of us is looking at our phone, we're really not together. Physically we may be, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we're not together.
No.
People don't talk face to face anymore. We might be texting back and forth, and we're sitting 3 feet from each other. There's something wrong with that.
There
It's
is.
but there's so many distractions that prevent us from being present and knowing what's in our environment.
Well, even just the news. I cannot keep up with the news. It's so fast and furious. It used to be when I was growing up that, 11 o'clock news would come on and we'd watch the news and we'd know what happened that day, and then the next night we'd watch the news. But now it's constant news, 24 hours a day, and it's hard to process all of that in your head, and I think it does take away our focus.
Right. So much stimulation and so much distraction, and it really does prevent you from paying attention.
Well, another thing we were talking about was when traveling.
Well, that's probably a whole other topic. Travel safety, things like protecting your room key or your pass card that you get into your room with these days. Things like the room itself. Check around the room. If it doesn't look clean, ask for another room or check out and go to a different hotel.
And we have the remote.
Right. One of the biggest things, our phones are filthy. How many of us take those into the bathroom, which is
Yeah.
a risk anyway. But when you go to a hotel room, if you have a couple of sandwich bags, you can actually take the TV remote. You can either sanitize it if you want, but the best thing is to carry a sandwich bag, put the TV remote in a sandwich bag so that you're not touching the buttons directly. You have something between, a little barrier between you and those dirty remote buttons.
Because you don't know how many people have touched any of that.
I hate to think about it.
I know, just the thought. But when you mentioned the sandwich bags, though, when we were talking, I thought that's an excellent idea. I hadn't thought of that, and now everything's going to be in sandwich bags. But I think it is good, though, if you're going traveling, and especially, to a hotel or out of the country, you're going to want to have a little extra protection.
Sure. And again, it's just a question of staying present and paying attention to your environment. If the room doesn't look clean, don't stay there.
So there are a lot of risks out there that can really sidetrack our health and fitness goals.
Absolutely.
But I guess the biggest one is being present, and like you said, and washing hands. The headphone thing, I think that's an important thing to think about. I see that a lot. I see a lot of people looking down at phones too, and it's an easy way to get hit by a car.
Can be if you're out in traffic.
You and I were talking the other day about exercise. I'm always talking about exercise.
No.
Yeah, really. And we discussed, exercise is good, but if you're not doing the right exercises or if you're doing them the wrong way, there's a big risk.
Right.
And I see a lot of, I'm not going to mention any names, of course, of different programs that are out there, but there's one that I saw that I was telling you where the guy held 135 pounds on a barbell in his hands, which is pretty heavy, and he threw it to a person across the room, and that person would catch it and go into a squat. And I saw another one where a person was actually standing and squatting on a stability ball, on a half blown up stability ball. So these are things that you might see in the gym, and you might think, well, that's normal, I should be doing that. But there are a lot of things going on out there now, I can tell you, in the fitness world that aren't going to keep you fit.
Right. And I know as much as you're into exercise, I know, hate to think that exercise is risky. But it can be.
It can
if you're
be.
new to a program and you're not sure how an exercise should be done, how you should be doing it with your body mechanics, a way you can modify your risk there is to get a good program, go to an accredited gym, get a good trainer, an accredited trainer, somebody who will watch your form and say, you know, you should be keeping your back straight while you're doing that. When you're lifting, you should be using your legs. There's little things that can keep you from getting hurt, which is a risk when you're exercising.
I see risks all the time when I go into the gym, and I cringe when I see people. One of the big things, and I know I talked about this on a show recently, was the pull downs behind the neck. And those used to be really popular. You'd get the bar and you'd just hurt when you pull it down, but you'd get it back there. Those were in the early days until we found out that it impinged the shoulders so badly that people were having a lot of rotator cuff problems and a lot of surgeries going on. And yet last week I saw someone with a lot of weight at a gym where I was visiting, yanking that weight down behind their neck. But if, you know, they had trainers there too.
Sure.
So you really have to be careful, do some research. That's why I appreciate you coming on the show with me and being here and talking, because you're a professional, you're a scientist, you're my medical consultant, and you know if I tell you something, you know exactly what it is and what I should do about it. And that's what everybody needs to do. You need to talk to your doctor, or if you have a medical friend, a person in the medical profession, just, get some information.
Right.
Not
Don't just go to the internet and believe it.
Right.
Check it out first. Do your research. And also, we've talked about risk outside in traffic with your phone or your headphones, and we've talked about risk in the gym. But keep in mind that most accidents occur in the home. So things to watch for in the home, particularly if you have elderly folks. You need to watch out for loose throw rugs. Maybe put a rubber mat under the floor, under the throw rug, so it doesn't slide along the floor. You might need to do something like a grab bar in the bathroom, or even a bath stool, an actual bench that goes in the tub to sit on.
That's a good
If
idea.
you have trouble getting up and down in the bathtub, or trouble standing in the shower for a length of time, something where you can sit and still stay clean.
Yeah.
You should also watch out for pets if you have dogs or cats. I recently did pet sitting for a friend, and they have 4 or 5 cats. They started out with 4, now they have 5. And one of them, their kitten, has a habit of being between your feet.
Oh, the old
So-
wraparound.
Yeah, well, as you're trying to walk, the kitten is between your feet. So every time you take a step, there's a kitten there. So I acquired the skill of walking with my feet shoulder length apart so that I didn't step on the kitten.
I'll bet that was attractive.
But, well, it was attractive, and it was also risky, because if I step on the cat and the cat yells and I'm startled, I could fall. If I trip over the cat, I could fall. If I'm at the top of the steps, that wouldn't be good. If I fall and hit my head on the counter top, that would not be good. So things like that are in the home that you really have to pay attention for. If you have a light bulb that you're trying to change, don't climb up on an unstable chair. Be sure you get a ladder, and if you need somebody to hold that ladder to stabilize it, wait till somebody's there to stabilize that ladder for you. So a lot of things that you need to think about just around your house.
Just around the house, exactly. I know one day I was brushing my teeth, and I never stay in one spot while I'm brushing my teeth, because you know how I am.
That's risky.
Yeah, that's risky. Well, I was brushing my teeth coming down the stairs,
Oh dear.
but I thought that's not good. So I waited till I got down there, because
I'm so glad you
yes,
thought that.
if you trip coming down the steps with your toothbrush, you know what's going to happen. And that's. But there are like goofy things that can happen at home. You just have to be aware. And that's why I'm always saying about working on balance. Stand on one foot every day for, 30 seconds. Try to practice that, because when you do go to fall, you're going to need some muscle memory to help you stabilize. And you might, you still might fall, but you might not fall as hard. You might be able to catch yourself and just if you're like me, slam into the wall instead of going down to the floor all the way. But because we do have balance issues, I have some inner ear problems, and I think a lot of people do. So we have to be present. We have to be really careful, and there are a lot of risks out there, and we're here to remind you today.
Right. Just a few things to think about
Mm-hmm.
as you go through your day that can be a problem, and some things that you can do to modify your behavior or your actions so that that doesn't become a risk for injury.
Well, another thing that I think we should, since I just went to my husband's reunion, and of course, you know, nothing bad happened there, but if you're in a crowd of people and you have a drink and you sit it down and you go to the restroom, that's not a good idea to leave your drink.
These days, you
Sitting
really
there.
can't trust that that's going to be the same thing you left.
Right. So you want to be careful about that. There's
very,
risks
very
everywhere.
easy to slip something in somebody's glass.
And we're not being paranoid. We're being, we're just
Aware.
being aware.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. Sometimes it takes years to become aware, but we're here today to tell you to be careful and just think about what you're doing and, you know, minimize the risk, because you can be in really great shape and you can still get hurt.
Absolutely.
Well, Pat, I think this has been a great show, and I hope that everybody enjoyed listening to some tips and hints on how to stay safe. Anything else you would like to add to that today?
Well, I think we've covered a lot. We've covered how to stay safe outside, how to stay safe at the gym, how to stay safe at home,
Flu season.
things about flu season, seasonal risk, some things you might want to consider purchasing to modify your risk. You know, just wash your hands if you. Usually that's free. Hand sanitizer might be nominally expensive, but these are things that you can do to keep yourself safe and protect yourself.
Another thing that's really dirty is money.
Sure.
We didn't mention that, but money or shaking people's hands. You would probably want to, you don't know if someone coughed in their hand before they shook your hand.
Right.
And I think a good way to cough in public is probably
Into your sleeve.
into your sleeve. So you want to, I've walked away from cashiers that have coughed in their hand and tried to hand me money,
Right.
because I really don't want your germs, you know, just.
But if that does happen to you, that you can't avoid having somebody touch something or you touch something that they've contaminated, just be sure that you don't touch your mouth or eyes, because those are the vectors through which you can contaminate yourself with their
okay.
bacteria or viruses. So don't touch your mouth or your eyes. And as soon as I get home from anywhere, the first thing I do is go to the sink and wash my hands before I touch anything in my house, because I know where I've been. You know, we say, well, don't touch that, you don't know where it's been, but I know where I've been, and I don't want that in my house.
No.
So wash off before you go in your house, and just make sure that you go in clean and keep it that way, and be aware.
Well, thank you, Pat, for all of your information, as always. And I hope you enjoyed it. I think that's about it for today. And so staying fit and healthy can be risky business. So I hope that you just minimize your risk by following some of the advice that Pat and I have here for you today, because we really do care. And we're coming up on that season where it gets a little slippy out there and things happen. So just be careful. And remember, take the challenge and commit to be fit.